Dashcam footage has emerged of a terrifying road rage incident just south of the border.
Begin tonight with that woman seen on police dashcam video, literally sound asleep right there in the middle of the road.
Dashcams are always rolling, and sometimes they capture the craziest things you wouldn't believe if there wasn't proof. From near misses that will make your heart skip a beat to unbelievable moments on the road, you won't want to look away because you never know what's coming next.
Just go easy now, easy.
Dad, the car is heating up, it's gonna explode.
In this video, we will explore some of the wildest things ever caught on camera. The wildfire. California's wildfires hit the news almost every year, but most of what we see are clips taken from a distance, far from the flames. Those fires look scary enough even from afar, but the reality up close is something else entirely. The dry heat, the winds whipping through the hills, and the bone-dry trees ready to ignite. It only takes one spark for a fire to explode into chaos. Now, imagine being right in the middle of that chaos. Back in 2020, photojournalist Tyler Day found himself in exactly that spot, driving through the heart of the Hennessy wildfire. His dashcam was rolling the whole time, capturing footage that's hard to believe was real. The sky above him was thick with smoke, turning day into a weird, hazy night. Flames licked the edges of the road, and the heat pressed against the car windows. It was like driving through the gates of hell. But Tyler kept moving forward, determined to get through. At one point, you can hear the trees snapping like gunshots. The fire had weakened them so much that it felt like they could come crashing down at any second. Yet Tyler kept a steady hand on the wheel, staying focused even as the fire roared around him. Somehow, he made it out safely, but the footage he captured was like nothing most people had ever seen. The fire left behind a scar on the land. 318,000 acres burned to ash, almost half the size of Rhode Island. Tyler's video gave the world a rare glimpse into what it's really like when a wildfire gets up close and personal, showing the raw power and destruction that's hard to put into words. The men in suit. In 2016, a strange clip shot in grainy VHS style began making its rounds on the internet, leaving everyone scratching their heads. The dashcam footage starts off innocently enough, just someone cruising down a deserted country road in the dead of night. But it doesn't take long for things to get really weird. The car turns a corner and suddenly the headlights catch sight of a man in a suit, briefcase in hand, standing right in the middle of the road. For a second, you might think he's just a hitchhiker, lost and needing a lift. But then, just as quickly, another man in a matching suit appears in the glare of the lights, and without a word, both of them take off running like their lives depend on it. As the driver tries to make sense of this bizarre scene, things go from strange to downright creepy. Out of nowhere, 9 more men, dressed exactly the same, pop their heads up from the tall grass on the side of the road, all of them huddling together like a pack of startled animals. It's like a scene straight out of a fever dream, and just when you think it can't get any crazier, it does. The camera catches sight of yet another figure further down, setting off a flare that lights up the darkness in an eerie red glow. To top it all off, someone else strolls casually past the car wearing a reindeer mask, adding a final surreal touch to the scene. Then, as abruptly as it began, the footage cuts to black, leaving nothing but questions. The strange clip quickly spread across the web, drawing in curious viewers who tried to piece together what they'd just watched. But it didn't take long for some eagle-eyed internet detectives to crack the case. Turns out it wasn't some hidden cult ritual or a prank gone wrong. It was actually a short video posted on Radiohead's Instagram account. The whole bizarre setup was part of a cryptic promotional campaign for their new album. The Desert Witch. In 2013, whispers of something dark started spreading across the Middle East. Stories of black magic, witchcraft, and strange rituals began to surface, stirring up fears in a region where such practices are not just frowned upon, they're outright banned. The authorities don't take this lightly. Anyone accused of witchcraft can face harsh punishments. But up until then, these were just rumors, nothing more. Then came 2014. That's when a piece of dashcam footage from the desolate Al Mutla desert in Kuwait popped up online, throwing the region into a frenzy. The video starts off with a car cutting through the pitch black desert night, headlights piercing through the endless darkness. Everything seems normal until, out of nowhere, the car's beams catch something odd on the road. There, under the harsh glare of the headlights, stood a figure. Its back was twisted, bent at an unnatural angle as if the bones had been snapped and rearranged. The driver hesitates, revving the engine as if to scare it off. But that thing, whatever it was, didn't react. It didn't scream, didn't run, it just kept shuffling forward, slowly, deliberately, like it was being pulled by some unseen force. You can almost feel the driver's fear as the car veers away in panic, tires screeching. The camera captures one last glimpse of the figure before it's swallowed up by the darkness again. And just like that, the clip cuts off. It didn't take long for the video to go viral, with people all over the Middle East debating what they had just seen. Was it a lost soul wandering the desert, a twisted creature from some forgotten curse, or a real-life encounter with the dark arts people feared were making a comeback? Even today, years later, that footage is still discussed in hushed tones. Whatever was out there in the desert that night, one thing's for sure, it left more questions than answers. Road rage. A quiet drive down the highway in Australia quickly turned into a scene straight out of a thriller for two men cruising in their Mercedes. They were just heading down a stretch of road, minding their own business, when their dashcam picked up something odd. In the rearview mirror, they noticed a car racing toward them at high speed. Before they knew it, the car swerved sharply, cutting them off and slamming on the brakes right in front of them. At first, it seemed like an extreme case of road rage, someone losing it behind the wheel. But it didn't take long for things to get even weirder. The driver ahead stuck his arm out the window, and to their shock, he was brandishing an axe, waving it around as if he was out for blood.
I was got an axe, dude.
Swerving across the highway, out of control, waving an axe out of the driver's window.
What are you doing? Oh, off. Keep distance, bro.
Panic set in. The men in the Mercedes realized they were dealing with more than just a reckless driver. They needed to get away fast. Thinking quickly, they made a sharp U-turn, hoping to shake the crazed man off their tail. But it didn't work. The maniac kept on them, refusing to let up. As they sped toward the nearest exit, hoping to find a way out, the chase only got worse. The attacker's car rammed into their Mercedes twice. The second hit so hard that it sent the guy's car spinning out of control, veering off the road. With that lucky break, the two men finally managed to escape and made a beeline to the nearest police station. But the story didn't end there. When police rushed to the crash site, they found nothing. The car had vanished. Hours later, authorities tracked down the suspect's vehicle still cruising on the roads. The driver was caught and hauled in, clearly not in his right mind. Turns out he was under the influence of something strong. When questioned, the attacker claimed he was chasing down the guys in the Mercedes because he believed they had broken into his house the night before. But that was just a twisted story his mind had cooked up. The two men had never seen him before in their lives. In the end, the man was hit with multiple charges and wound up serving 2 years behind bars. The tornado in Taiwan. This dashcam video shows a stormy day in Taiwan turning into something straight out of a disaster movie. At first, it just looks like bad weather. Wind whipping, rain pouring, debris flying. A piece even slams right into the windshield, making it clear that things are getting rough out there. But while drivers try to navigate the road, they have no clue what's brewing behind them, a tornado. It's forming fast and it's headed right in their direction. The camera captures the exact moment it all goes down. Out of nowhere, the tornado barrels through, whipping everything in its path. The force is so intense that it even lifts a white van that had just pulled onto the street. You see its wheels come right off the ground, and in a terrifying moment, the van is yanked down the road, disappearing from view. When the tornado finally passes, the van is found way down the street, wedged between two trees. As if that wasn't enough, there's also someone caught in the storm.
Taiwan apparently showing a tornado spawned by the storm hitting Tainan City.
Off to the right, a person is hit by the tornado's force and thrown to the ground. Sadly, she suffered major injuries and had to be rushed to the hospital. And even after the tornado faded, the storm wasn't done yet. It dumped a massive 50 inches of rain on the area, causing deadly landslides and making the damage even worse. This was one storm that Taiwan won't forget anytime soon. Plane crash on the highway. In late December 2012, an ordinary drive along a Moscow highway turned into a scene of horror for one driver. Near the airport, where planes regularly soared low overhead, a dashcam caught something no one expected to see. A plane hurtling straight toward the highway. It was December 29th, and icy poor weather had blanketed the area, making for tough landings. As the plane came in, it overshot the runway, unable to brake in time. In a matter of seconds, it tore across the end of the airstrip, plowing straight into the edge of the highway. The force of the impact sent seats, parts, and metal shards flying in every direction, all captured on camera as they scattered dangerously close to passing cars. Thankfully, the highway driver with the dashcam made it through unharmed. But for the plane's crew, it was a different story. Only 8 people were on board, just crew, no passengers. But the crash claimed 5 lives, leaving a tragic end to what had begun as a routine flight. It's a reminder of the power of nature and the risks faced in every flight. Creepy clowns. In 2016, the creepy clown craze hit hard across the US. People everywhere were spooked by sightings of evil clowns, and some encounters even turned violent.
It's a trend spooking the nation, creepy clown sightings. Now, they're threatening school districts.
It got so serious that police departments were on high alert, ready to respond to any strange sightings. One of these calls came into the Manassas Police Department in Wisconsin on October 11th around 3 a.m. Drivers reported 2 people in clown masks chasing cars, so the officers headed out, dashcam ready, to check things out. The camera captured the unsettling moment when their headlights found the clowns. There they were, 2 figures in creepy, colorful costumes just standing there in the road, frozen in the spotlight. They didn't even flinch until the officers ordered them to step aside. But the clowns' bizarre outfits didn't throw the officers off. They stayed calm and firmly moved the pair out of the street. Just as it seemed like another weird prank, the officers made a disturbing discovery. One of these pranksters had actually left his 4-year-old child alone at home to join in on the scare tactics. It was no joke now. The clowns were charged with child neglect, showing just how quickly a creepy prank can turn into something serious and even dangerous. Dust storm. In November 2019, a driver was making his way through Mildura, Australia, where it had been brutally hot, hitting a scorching 104 degrees. But the dry heat was about to turn into something way worse. Suddenly, strong winds started whipping across the land, picking up the dry red soil and forming a massive wall of dust.
Mildura in country Victoria has experienced a major dust storm as strong winds and heavy dust covered that town.
This wasn't just any dust storm. It was a huge rolling red cloud coming fast at 54 miles per hour, and it looked like something out of a nightmare. With no way around it, the driver braced himself, buckled up, and decided to drive straight into the storm. Within seconds, everything went dark as the red dust completely blocked out the sunlight, turning day into night. The driver could barely see a thing, moving slowly through the thick, blinding dust. For 10 long minutes he drove, inching forward through the darkness, before finally breaking through to the other side and back into the daylight. It was a wild ride, proving that even something as simple as dust can turn into a serious, heart-pounding experience. Glacier fire. In August 2018, Justin Bilton and his 70-year-old dad set out to camp at Glacier National Park, Montana. They'd barely arrived and set up their tent when a ranger rushed in with bad news. They had to leave right away. A forest fire from the night before, sparked by lightning, had grown out of control. The whole area was being evacuated. They jumped in their car and headed out, but as they reached the main road, they realized it was already blocked by the fire. The flames were too close, and to make things worse, a big tree had fallen right across the road, trapping them inside the park. They couldn't keep going forward, so they quickly reversed, driving back the way they came.
Once we got to that downed tree, my heart just dropped, and that's when I thought we were dead. I thought there was no way we could back up through what we had just come through.
The forest around them was blazing, and it felt like the fire was chasing them. Back at their campsite, they knew they couldn't stay. With no other choice, they abandoned their car and ran for a lake nearby, hoping they could somehow find help. When they reached the shore, they were shocked to see 2 park workers with a boat. Without a second to spare, they climbed aboard, leaving everything behind but their camera, with the chilling footage of their escape. In the end, Justin and his dad made it to safety, but the memory of that close call would stay with them forever. Garden City ghost car. Garden City police once caught something on Dashcam that's had people scratching their heads for years. It happened around the year 1996 when officers were chasing a driver known for pulling dangerous stunts on the road. This guy was dodging and weaving, trying everything to lose the cops. Finally, it looked like the chase was over. They had him cornered, trapped at the end of a dead-end road. But just as they pulled up, something strange happened. They saw his car's taillights slipping right through a solid fence on the other side, and when they checked, the fence was still standing, perfectly intact. No brakes, no damage. The car was just gone, like it had vanished into thin air. From then on, folks started calling it the Garden City Ghost Car. Theories ran wild, with people claiming the car had somehow phased through the fence or vanished. But let's be real, there's probably a down-to-earth explanation here. That fence looked like it might have been made from loose chicken wire. If it wasn't fastened at the bottom, maybe the car slipped under it. Or maybe there was some kind of ramp hidden on the other side and the car launched over like something out of a movie. Either way, it's still one of those strange moments that left everyone, even the cops, shaking their heads. Car robbery. This dashcam video captures a cab driver's worst nightmare, a robbery on the job. It was the start of Ralph Roletta's shift and he had just picked up his first passenger for the day. As they sat at a red light, the rider lounged quietly in the back seat, not a sign of trouble. Then, without warning, the passenger straightens up and demands Ralph hand over everything he's got. But what the robber didn't know was that just behind them, a police cruiser was also stopped at the light. When the light turned green and Ralph's car didn't budge, the officer noticed and decided to check things out. Flicking on his lights, he stepped out and approached the cab. It didn't take long for the officer to realize that Ralph was being held up. Acting fast, he ordered the suspect out of the vehicle, and within moments, the robber was handcuffed and on his way to jail. Later, the passenger faced multiple charges, while Ralph walked away shaken but safe thanks to some lucky timing and a watchful cop. The Walking Dead. We've all had those moments when we spot something strange by the side of the road, maybe a tossed out item or a mysterious figure loitering around. But what YouTuber Alyssa Cross caught on camera in 2016 takes weird to a whole new level. Alyssa was driving along when she noticed a woman stumbling down the street, barely able to walk straight. This woman was dragging her feet, limbs moving like they weren't fully under her control, almost like something out of a zombie movie. Curious and a little freaked out, Alyssa stopped and tried talking to her, but instead of answering, the woman got furious, growing more and more agitated. Realizing this wasn't going to end well, Alyssa hit the gas and sped off, leaving the eerie zombie figure to stumble her way down the road alone. No one's sure what was really going on. Was she under the influence of something strange or just practicing her best Walking Dead shuffle? Whatever it was, Alyssa wasn't sticking around to find out. The ice collision. Ever had that heart-stopping moment when a tiny rock suddenly hits your windshield? It's loud, it's unexpected, and it leaves you checking for any damage. Now, picture something a lot bigger than a rock coming your way. This past February, a driver in Tennessee got an even bigger surprise. Cruising along the highway at 80 miles per hour, they suddenly saw something in the distance, a sheet of ice flying off a U-Haul truck up ahead. There wasn't time to react. In seconds, the massive ice slab smashed right into their windshield, shattering the glass with a loud crash. Luckily, no one got hurt, but it was a wake-up call. That flying chunk could have caused serious injuries, maybe even worse. It's a reminder to everyone, before hitting the road, especially in winter, clear off any snow or ice from your car. It's easy to skip, but taking a few minutes to wipe off that frozen layer might just keep everyone safe on the road. Child on the highway. One evening in April 2021, Mitch Cooner was driving home from work, heading down a highway with his trailer in tow. The road was mostly quiet, with hardly any cars in sight, but as he cruised along, something odd caught his eye. A small figure moving into the road, right in front of his truck. At first, Mitch thought it might be a bundle of cloth or maybe even a stray animal, but as he got closer, he realized it was a child, wrapped up in what looked like a large jacket or blanket. The child seemed to appear out of nowhere, wandering straight into the path of his truck, narrowly avoiding the vehicle. With his trailer behind him, Mitch knew stopping suddenly could be dangerous, potentially causing a serious accident. So, instead of slamming on his brakes, he reached for his phone and called the police, explaining that he'd just seen an unattended child walking on the highway. The police assured him they'd send someone out to investigate right away. An hour went by, and the unsettling sight of that child lingered in Mitch's mind. Unsure if the child had been found, he called the police again, offering to hand over his Dashcam footage for help. However, they told him it wouldn't be necessary. According to the dispatcher, the child was safe and had been taken back home. But later, things took a strange turn. The police publicly stated they hadn't found any child and insisted no one ever told Mitch that the child had been located. In fact, officers had reportedly searched the area until nearly 4 a.m. without success. No child was spotted and no parents had reported a missing child that night. The next morning, volunteers gathered, hoping to uncover some clue about the child Mitch had seen. They combed through the area, but after hours of searching, they found nothing. Slowly, the search faded out, leaving the entire community with unanswered questions. To this day, no one knows who the child in Mitch's dashcam footage was. No one came forward and no similar reports surfaced. That small figure remains a mystery, one that neither the locals nor the authorities have been able to explain. Almost roadkill. In the early hours of a Sunday in 2018, just before 2 a.m., Sergeant Charlie Scott was out on patrol in Fallshere City. It was the usual quiet shift, the streets empty and calm. But that all changed in an instant. While driving down a dimly lit road, he noticed the car ahead suddenly veer wildly to the side, barely missing something sprawled across the asphalt. Sergeant Scott's heart raced as he pulled up closer, realizing a person was lying still in the middle of the road. Thinking the worst, he quickly approached, bracing himself to find someone badly injured. But to his surprise, the woman was very much alive. She was also very drunk, so much so that she couldn't even stand without stumbling. When he tried to help her up, she wobbled, then flopped back down as if gravity had the last word. After a bit of back and forth, Sergeant Scott managed to get her off the road and into a safer spot. He soon pieced together the story. The woman had crashed her car into a ditch a couple of 100 yards back. Instead of waiting for help, she decided to find her way back on foot. But somewhere along the way, she'd passed out, right in the middle of the road.
Begin tonight with that woman seen on police dashcam video, literally sound asleep right there in the middle of the road.
Thanks to Sergeant Scott, she avoided what could have been a tragic end. But the officer had a duty to uphold too. After ensuring she was safe, he promptly arrested her for public intoxication and took her to jail.
Woman arrested for public intoxication after falling asleep on a Fallshere road.
Wrapping up an unusual, life-saving night on patrol that neither he nor the townsfolk were likely to forget. Massive bushfire. In late November 2015, South Australia faced a massive bushfire that seemed unstoppable. Fire crews were quick to respond, and among them was a fire truck with a dash cam rolling. As it sped down the road, the footage captured thick, dark clouds of smoke rising high, showing just how fierce this blaze had become. Every mile forward meant seeing less of the road as visibility kept dropping. Finally, the wall of smoke grew too thick, forcing the trucks to a standstill. In the distance, flames crept forward, hungry and fast, closing in on them. Then, chaos hit. The truck up front, trying to back out of the fire, accidentally collided with the truck behind it due to a communication slip. That rear truck, the one with the dash cam, went into burnover mode. Burnover is an emergency move where the crew stays inside, using Velcro blankets for heat protection and spraying water outside the vehicle to prevent it from going up in flames. Everyone puts on breathing masks, bracing themselves to ride out the firestorm. But there was a problem. Over the radio, the crew in the lead truck urgently shared that their sprinkler system wasn't working. No water for protection. Staying put wasn't an option. So, with no choice left, they decided to push forward through the fire, hoping they'd come out on the other side. In the video, you can see their truck vanish into the blaze as they make this risky dash. Luckily, the move worked. They broke through to safer ground, managing to escape the flames. Both crews, including the one with the dash cam, got out with minor injuries. Thanks to quick thinking and a bit of luck, they lived to tell the tale of that harrowing November day. Without dashcams, many of these moments would be impossible to believe. They've captured the wild, unexpected, and downright bizarre, turning unbelievable stories into undeniable proof. Trust me, after seeing these, you'll never look at your dashcam the same way again.